and she lived in a model's apartment. Her mom, obviously, as you know, did not have any means to come by, especially to share, and help support her on her big move to New York. But she gave her roughly 55 US dollars is what it worked out to. And her modeling agency gave her a roll of quarters so that she could get around between go-sees. She could make phone calls on the payphones to know where she needed to go for work. Hustler. She was a hustler. That Yolanda was a big-time hustler. But she says that she was very motivated by money because she knew that money would give her the freedom to pursue her passions, horseback riding, and to help to take care of her mom. So she was in New York. She ends up going out to LA, which in some respects makes a lot of sense, especially as she's getting older in the modeling industry. She goes out to LA, and she did an interview for Money magazine right before her modeling show came out. And she talked about how she was always extremely frugal. And I know that probably is so weird to equate with somebody who had a walk-in glass refrigerator, the refrigerator at the Malibu house. I think it's probably hard for us to equate frugality with that. But per Yolanda, she was extremely, extremely frugal. She would keep tallies of every job that she took, every amount of money that she made, and she saved. She never spent. But her first very big purchase, believe it or not, was a condo in Los Angeles. And she says to Money magazine that condo, obviously she lived there for probably a very short period of time, but that condo, when she eventually ended up selling it, made her a great deal of money. And so from her perspective, if she spends money, it's spent as some form of an investment. So we know that her passion project is clearly the horses. But in terms of spending money, it needs to be an investment, which I think is fascinating. I love it. Millennial Missionary, thank you for saying that the content is golden. I really, really appreciate it. Right? Very, very cool. If you Googled pictures of Yolanda Vanden Henrik from the 1990s, the early 1990s, like, you would see the girl's a babe. She was a babe. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl. A couple of years ago, so I want to say 2 years ago, it was definitely 2 years ago, she did an Instagram post where she shared photos of her home in Santa Barbara that were published in Santa Barbara magazine, because after Yolanda and Mohammed got divorced, she actually ended up buying a home in Santa Barbara. And the home that she ended up buying was a real horse property. It had private riding trails. It had riding trails that connected between other people's properties in Montecito. But she was featured in Santa Barbara magazine. She decided to share some of the photos to her Instagram account 2 years ago. They were taken in 2004. You get to see Gigi, Anwar, and Bella when they were like really little kids, and stunningly gorgeous children. And Bella was a blonde too. She was a blonde. Anwar, he had darker hair, but the girls were both blondes. And when I tell you, just absolutely adorable, gorgeous children, they really were. The article was entitled Horseplay And the caption read, Yolanda Hadid designs a new life for her family in her luxury farmhouse. It looks like a Ralph Lauren home and fashion photo shoot. It's very possible that the pictures that she shows of Gigi in particular, it looks like it could be very well Gigi's very first modeling job. I'm not kidding. Gigi was 9 at the time that these pictures were taken. And in the article, Yolanda says, I grew up riding and my children are practically obsessed with horses. Yolanda dished in the interview accompanying the shoot. When choosing this house, I knew it was the place my children would grow up. We're about dusty riding clothes and muddy boots, not dressing up, she said. So this is what I think is so fascinating. This is the life that she created for herself, and albeit a gorgeous, very, very luxurious farmhouse. We're not talking about, a dude ranch. This is like a beautiful property. And if you look at the life that Yolanda has made for herself in Pennsylvania, on the farm, with all these animals and just like real country type living, I think that really is who Yolanda is in her core, in her heart of hearts. So when I think back to why David and her ended up getting divorced, I know a lot of it, and she has gone on the record to say a lot of it was in part to her Lyme disease. But me personally, I think a lot of it was because who she was when she was with David was not truly who Yolanda was. She's a nurturer, she's a caring person, she's a small town sort of country girl, okay? And so I think I don't see how David and her really meshed in terms of lifestyle. Formality and having things on a grand scale was our old life in Los Angeles. This home and keeping things in perspective is our new life here. So what she's referencing in this 2004 article was her divorce from Mohammed. Mohammed and her were married from 1994 until 2000. So remember I said to you she was born in 1964? I think when you look at when Mohammed and her actually got married in 1994, she was 30 years old. She had a very successful modeling career, but she desperately wanted to have children, and clearly that was the perfect time for it in her life, career-wise, age-wise, everything. She had Gigi in 1995, Bella in 1996, and Anwar in 1999. So she had 3 kids, all pretty close together. But obviously her marriage with Mohammed was not built to last. But Yolanda said in her blog, she said, Joanna Krupa did not cause Mohammed's and I's divorce. Unfortunately, infidelity did. But at this point, 12 years later, we have left that negative chapter behind and have moved on to be friends and are united parents to our children. But let's talk about the money. Okay, so yes, did Yolanda have a very successful modeling career? As far as modeling careers go in the 80s and 90s, I would safely say she did. Okay, and clearly she was frugal, and clearly she was very smart with her money, and she was very focused and a very hard worker. So yes, I do think that Yolanda did well in her career. Yes, millennial missionary. Yolanda was wealthier than David when they married. She was. So if you go to the Money article, the money.com article. We basically read through an entire article talking about her work ethic, talking about things that she invested her money in. She actually bought her condo in Los Angeles that I had previously told you about when she was 21 years old. She ended up marrying Mohammed Hadid in 1994. He was known for building mansions and hotels in the Los Angeles area. He also is an architect, so he designed like the St. Regis in Aspen, I believe, and the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Beach. This is the important part. She actually apparently received $30 million in her divorce settlement when Mohammed and her divorced. So when we see the articles about her having $45 million when David and her divorced, you kind of have to think, well, 30 million of that came from her divorce settlement with Mohammed. She was making a 6-figure salary per season while she was on The Real Housewives. She had her book deal when she wrote about her journey with Lyme disease. And then she also had her modeling show that only aired for 1 season on Lifetime. And that's why she did this article with money.com. Let's look into what she splurges on. Hadid still claims she isn't much of a believer in the material life, but in dealing with Lyme disease, she has become an ardent consumer of alternative remedies and adheres to a strict organic diet. She admits that she's dropped quite a lot of coin on vitamins alone. Plus, she appreciates it a lot more than a Chanel bag. So her focus is on her physical health, her mental health, things that make her heart happy. She does not derive any sort of a joy out of luxury merchandise. Not a bad way to be. It's really not a bad way to be. I think that's a great way to be, actually. In her memoir, though, about Lyme disease, and then we'll move on from Yolanda, she writes about several warning signs that her marriage is on the rocks. David's remark that your sick card is up leaves the Bravo star almost at a loss for words. After having a front row seat to my journey, he's actually saying that I used a sick card. Who is he talking to? Who is influencing him? How did he come up with such an unkind statement? I don't deserve this, Yolanda wrote. If roles were reversed and David was sick, I would stick by him. I think she would. I really think she would have. I truly believe that. That was a good one, though. I think Yolanda's very interesting. I think that she, she's one of those housewives that definitely, in some respects, I think that the Lyme disease kind of overtook her storyline a little bit too much. And in some respects, I wish that it hadn't. I know it was what she was dealing with and what she was living through, but I think it was all consuming for her actual, housewives persona.